Go.
There we go. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome you all to India HR Live. Well, at this point, we are live on air, broadcasting live on air from Dallas, Texas. I'm from Dallas, Texas, and my buddy Matt Charney is there from Dallas, Texas, and some of our speakers are from India and across United States. As you all know, India HR Live is a global platform. So today we're going to talk more about the recruiting trends in 2015. So the recruiting trends that you need to know, it's everything out there on the web, on the news outlet, but getting it, getting that out from the people who really move the needle. That's what India HR Live is out there for today, and our commitment is there for today. And today we have people who are joining our global leaders, our global recruiters and recruiting experts, recruiting marketing experts, and even one of the top-notch blog or news outlet out there, which is Recruiting Daily, and its executive editor is there. So stay tuned. If you're out there watching India HR Live for the first time, we have our hashtag, that is hashtag India HR Live. So if you're on Twitter or Facebook, chime in there and share your thoughts. And please use the hashtag so that way we can track you. And if you have any questions, any doubts, or any thoughts, you wanted to put it out there and ask our guest, please do it, and we will be able to pull that up. So without further ado, let me take this to our guest and welcome them. And we have Matt Charney, who is the executive editor and head of content at Recruiting Daily. Hey, Matt, welcome back to India HR Live.
Hey, thank you very much, and I appreciate you having me on. I'm looking forward to dishing with actual experts on what the trends look like, because I'm still trying to figure it all out. So thank you for having me.
Absolutely right. Well, I'm also looking forward to see the kind of trend where India is headed and where US is headed, because Matt and Maren, both of them are from United States, and we have Sarang and Kunjal, both of them are from India. So we can see a great transition right there in between. So Matt, your last time when you joined us, you were the managing editor of Recruiting Daily, and now you are the executive editor. So would you like to share anything about you, any updates that you wanted to share to our audience? What's going on?
No, we're just pretty quickly growing our platform and really just kind of adding a lot of readers and content from people who have an appetite, I guess, to know what's going on in the industry. So hence I get a sexier title and still stay on mission of trying to deliver the best content I can that's actually going to help real recruiters do their jobs better. So just kicking butt and taking names, as we say over here.
Absolutely. Well, they are the right hands. That's all I can say right now. And let's move on to Sarang. Sarang, he is first time on the show, and there is something more to that. Sarang, he joined India HR Live as a co-host. So next time when you see Sarang, he will be co-hosting with me. So Sarang, welcome to India HR Live, and tell our audience a little bit about you. Sarang, you are on mute. You might want to unmute yourself.
Yeah, sorry, I was on mute. So, yeah, thanks, Nisha. Thanks for adding me into your team. It's a great honor. My name is Sarang, or Indians would call me Sarang. I'm part of Capgemini, lead the social recruiting strategy globally. And really passionate about sourcing, anything to do with social media and employer branding, and I'm really glad to be here.
Wonderful. Well, we look forward to doing many, many shows with you. And we have wonderful lady out there, Maren Hogan, who is the Chief Marketing Brain at Red Branch Media. Maren, welcome to India HR Live.
Hello, thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be here. I hope coffee is okay.
Great. I do have mine too over here, so no trouble.
No, I'm really excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me, and this is tremendously exciting. I can't wait to get started.
Thank you. Well, before we kick off, would you like to talk a little bit about Red Branch Media, and then we will take it from there?
Sure. Red Ranch Media is a full-service marketing and advertising agency. We specialize in B2B, but we're highly specialized in HR and recruiting technology and services. So we work with a lot of the vendors that you talk to, and probably in a month's time, we talk to between 50 and 60,000 HR practitioners and recruiting professionals to get their take on what's trending and which of these tools are actually useful and which are just wasting their time. So we sit on both sides of the fence, and we produce between 60 and 70 pieces of content every month, sometimes more. So we have a great team. There's 14 of us, and we work with companies and continents all over the world.
Wonderful. And you were a recruiter. You were in the HR. You were in the HR field and transitioned into an entrepreneur. I mean, into a Red Branch Media right now. So would you like to talk a little bit about your career of recruitment, career in recruitment industry? So that's where that's how our audience can connect with you.
Absolutely. So I actually started as a marketer, then transitioned into recruiting, then transitioned back into HR, and then into marketing. So I'm kind of a weird hybrid. Not that many people are sure how to classify me. And of course now I'm a business owner, and so I recruit and do HR for my own company. So there's a lot of different roles that I sit in or have sat in, and so I think that gives us a tremendous amount of empathy. And also just a long tail view on what's been happening, especially with social, since my career sort of dovetailed with the emergence of social and mobile recruiting, things like that. So it's been an exciting ride. It's been exciting to watch. And when I haven't been doing it, I've been talking to a lot of people who've been doing it and doing it very well.
Right. So now let's move on to Kunjal Kamdar, my buddy out there at India HR Live. Kunjal, right there with you. We have a little bit of technical glitches here hearing the audio. But there's a lot of echo over there.
Yes. Yeah. Thanks, Nisha, for the introduction, and looking forward to some interesting insights from the experts also. So looking forward to a great show.
Tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah, I'm just started my career with sourcing, and I'm passionate about sourcing majorly, and then gradually shifted into end-to-end recruitment, and now my interest is moved towards social media. So looking forward to knowing and learning some new trends also. So that's what we are here for.
Right. So can you mute Kunjal? Yeah, right. So Kunjal, there is a echo. There's a lot of echo out there. So I would recommend, if there is a live window, YouTube window open out there on your desktop or somewhere, that might be the reason. I hope so. So if you can close that, that'll work, and that will help us. So guys, let's take this. Let's open this panel discussion and talk more about recruiting trends. So what is the biggest recruiting trend that you see that is going to happen in 2015? And I would start with Matt.
Yeah, sure. So I think that one of the most interesting trends, certainly to me, is obviously we've talked about recruiting as marketing and kind of that overlap for a lot of time now. But what I think is particularly interesting is the fact that a lot of that conversation has really been about technology. How can we rely on technology to make our lives easier and automate things and make things more user friendly? But I think that as technologies progress to the point where it's really not about finding the right talent, it's about getting that talent to respond to an email or pick up the phone, what we're really seeing is a shift from kind of automation to personalization, and really switching from looking at things like, how can I get my job description seen by as many people as possible, to how can I specifically target some awesome content and build relationships specifically with who I'm looking to actually put in a pipeline. So I really think what we're seeing is less on the tech side and much more on things like basic communication and interpersonal relations.
Right. So we look forward to seeing more of that among recruiters and even HR professionals when it comes to that. We are dealing with the candidate-driven market right now. So, Sarek, what do you wanted to add?
So I completely agree with what Matt said. But in terms of specifically for India, I think this is a year where recruiters and talent acquisition leaders are going to walk the talk. I've been hearing a lot of conversations around social recruiting, employer branding, and mobile recruiting, candidate experience for the last 2 years. I think still think not too many companies have actually ventured into it in India, and they're still trying to understand and learn from the best practices. But I think in 2015 we would see a lot of companies actually building social recruiting strategies and having those conversations with marketing as well in terms of how they can collaborate and work together. Also building specific competencies related to social recruiting, having specific budgets for employer branding, mobile, candidate experience. So I definitely think this year is going to be really crucial to actually do some of the stuff that we have been talking for so long,
Right.
especially for India.
Well, that is a great direction to Marin. You wanted to jump in because he talked about the collaboration between marketing and HR when it comes to building a budget and creating a recruitment marketing and even employer branding message. So, Marin, what do you see are some of the recruiting trends out there in 2015?
Yeah, so one of the things that I wanted to say in relation to both points brought up so far is that I think the automation allows personalization on a larger scale. So we have been talking about marketing and recruiting for a long time, and I'll address that a little bit later, but one of the things that I really wanted to get across, and that I think is super important for our industry to understand, is I think it's kind of dangerous to operate our professional lives in terms of trends. Like, I understand the question, but I think we should be viewing those trends as learning to be sort of sifted through, beta tested, and then folded into the arsenal of things that we're already doing well, like effective tools and processes. I think getting into trends for too long has become about what's the shiny new tool and what's the silver bullet, which everybody says. It almost feels like there's no time to really get into like strategic planning and some of that personalization that Matt talked about. So that said, I hope the new trend is again the alignment of marketing and HR, if not an even deeper integration. And then I also hope that internal training post-hire, which is not really talent acquisition, but I think it's the one thing that can help countries that have skill gaps, America for one, and our country's lack of sort of specialized knowledge. And so I think if we can learn to train people post-hire, and if we can start hiring people for more cultural fit, and that does lead back to the personalization and not the whole spray and pray thing that we brought straight from the job boards into social, I hope that that's the biggest trend of 2015. I know I just answered like 7 questions in a row. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. So let's hear from Kunshal. You got it, Kunshal.
Yeah, you can hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, great. Okay, yeah, I mean, just to add on to the points that the panel members mentioned, and also with reference to what Saran mentioned, there's a lot of talk about social hiring. But when we compare it to the percentage of hiring that is being involved in companies, it's quite negligible to start off with. So there's a lot of talk about it, but very few companies are working towards it. Just to give an example of India, there is 243 million internet users, out of which 118 have social media accounts. So, and surprisingly, we are more active on WhatsApp, followed by Facebook Messenger, and then on Facebook, and then LinkedIn. So again, companies need to first find out which platform is useful for them based on where their audience is, and then they can prepare their strategy accordingly.
Right. Well, we all have talked about, focusing on the strategy a little more effectively so that choosing the right platform and personalizing the communication the way candidates would like to get communicated and the way candidates would like to get treated, which is a real big deal. But I wanted to go back to one of the point that Matt has suggested, that is personalization, which is a big deal out there when it comes to we are dealing with a candidate-driven marketplace, because the shift has moved to recruiters to candidates. Now candidates have the ability to kind of judge what's in it for me, or probably why should I join you. And in that case, what would you recommend for our recruiters and even the companies, I mean the employers? How should they place them in the marketplace? so that the candidates will choose them as an employer of choice?
So I don't think that candidates ever necessarily make that choice independent of a vacuum. Or excuse me, I don't think employers can drive that choice. I think that in this market, it's up to the candidates. So what I think is really, really important is to not create that sort of buyer's remorse that often happens when people are on the job, because I think you can easily misrepresent your brand and, kind of spin things to get to an offer. But the fact is, recruiting doesn't stop when an offer is accepted, and retention is obviously a big part of the equation. So I really think that it's really incumbent on companies to be honest and transparent. I know that's a buzzword that generally means that people are lying when you talk about transparency, but look, if you are going to successfully end the recruiting process, they're going to know sooner or later whether or not you were upfront and told them the facts. And that's why I think rather than rely on kind of this fancy employer branding or these snazzy videos of your employees day in the life with some soft lenses and like quick zooms, I just ignore that and really say, here's what the opportunity is, here's what we're about, and let the candidates make a selection. Because at the end of the day, if they're in demand now, they're going to be in demand tomorrow, and you really don't want to take on the costs that are associated with making a bad hire or a hire who isn't going to not second guess that decision.
Absolutely right. Sarang, would you like to add anything?
I agree to what Matt said. I think the basic rule of employer branding, what I've learned over the past years, is employer branding is all about what people say about company and not what companies say about themselves. So, what you have to really look at is employer branding or value propositions really sinking into your company culture, and is that representing the right image on social things like Glassdoor, things like Vault, or other things. And do you really have people who are talking about you from your company perspective? Also, there's a statistic which says 67 or there are more of people who would, if they had a bad candidate experience, they won't even go for your product or buy your services. So again, as part of the recruitment process, are you giving them right candidate experience? Are you getting the feeling that they are really connected with you? If they get these right signals, then they get connected with you, even if they're not looking out for a change, which will help you to build a stronger engagement for the long term stuff as well.
All right, and let's move on to the next question. So, what are the new innovative processes and technologies to watch out for in 2015? And I know Kunjal has brought up a great point, the differentiation between choosing the tool, because in India, Kunjal, can you be on mute? Oh, yeah. Because in India they have seen that WhatsApp has become the number one tool in order to engage and connect with candidates, and I see the adoption rate is around 69 percentage in India, but versus in compared to United States, it's only 8 percentage over here for WhatsApp, and Facebook has been the number one platform that we have seen in order to engage with the candidates, and even um, a number one tool for social recruiting. So tell us, what are some of the differences that you see when you compare India versus United States when it comes to using innovative tools and technologies that we need to watch out for in 2015? Kunjal, you take it, and then we will move on with everyone.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, interesting development in India. Also, just to give you an example, if you go on a LinkedIn profile, they have an option of a WeChat in your contact details. So how about job portals getting into WhatsApp, wherein it's a kind of real-time connection with the candidate. So that's a quite interesting trend, and I hope very soon that will happen, based on what and how people are using it. Although it's an informal channel, but that's how people would like to get approached, rather than getting in mail and I don't respond to it or something like that. So it's a quite a real-time channel, and that's what quite very popular in India nowadays.
What would you say, Sarang, when it comes to you wanted to add some thoughts on
Um,
what Kunshal have shared?
Yeah, so in terms of innovation, I think there are two things that are clearly happening. I see the rise in gamification, and social and gamification really go hand in hand. It's really create that interesting factor into recruiters and candidates to engage. Social has to be interesting, it has to be fun, it cannot really be boring. So gamification is one. In terms of innovation, while we were speaking for mobile recruiting for so long, I think there's still most of some of the career websites are not being mobile optimized. So, and in fact, there was a news that Google released a couple of days back where if your site is not mobile optimized, they're gonna rank it down in their entire page rank. So while you call it innovative or not, but very simple things that are you engaging people on mobile? Are you either through apps or through just mobile optimized sites? So I think these are the two other components which I can add.
Right. And we have seen, I mean, last year we have seen even innovative tools like Snapchat and um, what are other tools that you have seen when it comes to getting into the recruiting spectrum, that we will ask Matt and Maren Hogan when it comes to the difference that he sees between India and United States. Yeah, Matt, you got it.
Yeah, so what I think is interesting to your point about trying shiny new tools, as I've said before, like with Snapchat, sure, there are some recruiting case uses, but we've always had something that we look at for 7 seconds in recruiting before it disappears forever, and we call it a resume, right? So what I think, what we're seeing now actually is a rejection of a lot of social recruiting. We in the U.S. obviously is a much mature market, a much more mature market, just kind of in terms of adoption, have about 6, 7 years worth of data now, which shows us that right now social sitting about 1 to 2% of overall hires. So in spite of all of this, all of these different platforms and cool things we can try out, which are fun for us and make us feel like we're doing something, they're not actually working. And so I think that really fits into what I see as the biggest technological trend, which is really the one buzzword that I think has a little bit of substance behind it, and that's big data or analytics. I think what we're really seeing is companies start to adopt things like looking at amount of user click-throughs, things like a start of application to a finish of application, how many candidates are dropping off between a job description and a career site, and starting that application. So kind of just looking more at where that money should be spent, getting a better handle on where candidates are coming from and what's actually working. And then what we're seeing from that actually is that what is working are the things that we think are decidedly unsexy, which are referrals and job boards, number 1 and 2 by quite a long shot in terms of source of hire.
Absolutely. So, Maren, would you like to add any thoughts?
Sure. So, as is usual, I'm going to come in on the opposite side of where Matt is.
Absolutely. That's what we wanted to hear.
Okay, so I don't know if we want to talk about the most innovative process or technology, or if we want to go into the whole mobile thing, but I've been hoping that marketing automation would have a real impact on talent acquisition for a while. But I think that comes from being in a startup and agency background. I don't think that there are even that many marketing functions that are truly understanding marketing automation. Like, I know we talk about it, like our group, but I don't think that there's that many, even marketing departments in the enterprise level, that understand marketing automation, how to use it to nurture a prospect, much less a candidate through the process. So I think innovative is the word for something that allows recruiters to be better at what they do while simultaneously eliminating some of the busy work. And so that's why I think that automation has become a bit of a dirty word. We're not trying to strip away the core function of recruiting. We're trying to get rid of the stuff that you do day in, day out, every single day in order to allow that sort of personalization. But in terms of technology, I'd like to see more video incorporated into talent acquisition. I don't know if anybody else has this view, but it seems like video came out at the same time as, or even before, a lot of these like sourcing engines and social platforms, and it was sort of poised to make talent acquisition different and faster and all this good stuff. But I think we finally have the tech to do it right. But I think for some reason, maybe it's this whole fear of appearing on camera, which is not always super fun, has lagged. Video, it's lagged for some reason. Sourcing is surged, social is surged, even mobile is being incorporated into some of the enterprise technologies, at least on the vendor side. But video is just taking longer. So from a pure technology perspective, I'd like to see that. I think big data is not something that very many companies understand and understand well. And we have a really unique view into that as we've been working with Broadbean and Career Builder to try and figure out, okay, how do companies use big data? And we take a very different approach, and that has certainly impacted my thinking on that. You should have a show just about big data.
Wow. So yeah, we will see more people are going to use big data or data-driven marketing. Marketing and even recruitment that we will see going forward, and more people are going to use mobile and video as well. And there is, I read somewhere there is online video now. It accounts for 50% of all mobile traffic. So mobile is going to be huge going forward as well. So, but we have seen, I think. Matt and even Seren has said that mobile is going to be a big factor when it comes to making yourself searchable. I mean, your company profile, I mean, your job boards, and whether the candidates are going to apply or not. That is also going to be a big deal when it comes to your career site is becoming mobile optimized or not. But will we finally leverage mobile recruiting in a full-fledged? And if so, what do you recommend in order to do that? Matt, would you like to share any thoughts on optimizing mobile in a full-fledged on your recruiting initiatives?
Yeah, so I think that recruiting is fascinating, and that's the only category where people are still talking about mobile separately, like as a separate category. I think as internet users, we expect that a website should work on any device we look at it, right? And this is the one thing that falls through. So we can talk about, like, you know, making a mobile optimized site all day, but I think that even having the conversation shows how far behind we are. And the other thing, too, is that I don't know that the problem is necessarily the mobile optimized career sites. I think it's that you bounce from that career sites to the front page of these old applicant tracking systems where you're obviously not going to pinch and squeeze your way into filling out 180 different forms. And until there's the ability for candidates to really easily not only see job descriptions, but also apply through a couple clicks on the device, then mobile is kind of the silly conversation because you can lead the horse to water, but if you don't have a place to make it drink in the first place, then unfortunately you're kind of just wasting your time and a lot of energy in branding activities that have no point.
Yeah, and would you think that there would be a situation like recruiters and hiring managers would be able to approve the requisition, post job, post videos, and review resumes, and even schedule, and even the employees can, you know, provide referrals through mobile platform?
Yeah, I think a lot of those capabilities exist. I think the problem is that they're not generally native to the system. So a lot of mobile capabilities, think like products like RollPoint, you can do mobile referrals. Products like Jive will optimize your career sites for mobile, but at the exact same time, you still have to go out and buy a point solution in order to adjust for a capability that your system should already natively be handling.
Great. And we have Harmeet joined with us. I'm not sure if he's able to. Harmeet, are you there? No, for some reason, Harmeet and Jessica Miller, both of them are not able to join with us. Marin, yeah, would you like to? What is your take when it comes to, using mobile in full-fledged on our recruiting initiatives?
Yeah, I think I do agree with Matt on this point. I think many many companies are leveraging mobile. I think what's holding the vendor side back, and again, I'm just coming at this from hearing what practitioners are frustrated with, but also seeing what vendors are trying to do, is this proposition of like all or nothing. I think many vendors feel they have to have their entire process on mobile for it to be worth like launching as a product. And I know we talked already about it not being a separate product. It's really just a distribution channel. But we don't see that timidity on the consumer side. Like, remember when Facebook came to your phone? It wasn't like everything that Facebook could do. It was just like the stuff that people wanted to do on their phone, and everyone thought it was great. And now candidates, which are in our candidate-driven market are the ones who will decide if mobile recruiting is viable, not us, not recruiters, are sort of waiting for the vendors and companies to get their acts together. It can be done, and I think it can be done in stages. Someone just needs to force the hands of the vendors, who will in turn sell it, and it will catch on. I do hope it's this year. It should be this year. Talent acquisition is the one place where it can truly work. Because once you get into sort of onboarding and like new hire paperwork, it gets a little bit more difficult to like, what do you say, make that scalable, especially in the different 50 states and stuff. I think with so many consumers using the cloud in the form of like Dropbox and Evernote and Google Drive, why wouldn't you be able to get through your entire application process during your morning commute? Like you could even dictate your cover letter to Siri. It's sort of ridiculous that in 2015, yes, you could, Matt. And then you could just, when you park, you could edit it. Okay, go ahead.
You have it, Matt.
I was going to say you could obviously dictate your cover letter to Siri, but that's still not going to make a recruiter more likely to listen to a cover letter than read it, which doesn't happen anyway. So that said, no, I would like to mark this as the first time Marin has ever agreed with me on anything. So I'm already a winner on this one.
Is it like candidates, they're providing a brief intro of who they are and what they like to be and what career they were pursuing, just giving a video to the recruiters out there, like the video interviewing platform that you were talking about?
Yeah, I think
Just
that.
like the same?
Yeah, I
Probably.
think that video interviewing is an awesome thing if they're already kind of in process. Being able to shift and flex and really kind of be able to see that person in action. I think as an initial screening device, though, if people are complaining that they don't have time to screen enough resumes, then you break down into having to take the time to watch a bunch of different actual videos. I don't necessarily see that as solving the fundamental problem, which is being able to consider the best candidates out there on the market, which I think is technology agnostic. But when you get to the actual video engagement, things that are actually real-time Q&A with a candidate and a hiring manager or another stakeholder, then I think you actually are widening your candidate pool by making it more location agnostic. And so I think that's really where it starts functioning a little bit more optimally.
All right. Well, I see so many tweets out there on our Twitter platform. Sarang, let me give a
Nisha,
little bit shout out before you take the platform. Guys, if you're out there watching this show, I know you guys are out there and we can see many tweets out there. So share your questions and tweet your questions to our guest with the hashtag IndiaHR Live, and we will be able to pull that up and ask those questions to our guest. So Sarang, yeah, good, you got it.
Yeah, so in terms of video and mobile as well, I think one interesting thing that we're trying with video is can the job description be done through video? So today's job descriptions are very text savvy and very long to essay kind of read. Can you actually get a hiring manager to explain the context behind the job and what kind of pitch that he would have, or what kind of job this is, and making more personalized videos to the candidates, and probably that can be more appealing to candidates rather than reading through the long job description. Also, we've tried in past infographic JDs where the entire job description, we have converted that into the infographic, which is much more which is giving more information than just job description in more interesting manner. So that's where I think I see synergy between creativity, marketing, and applying the marketing principles into talent acquisition to attract more candidates and really going beyond the conventional media.
So, do you mind to say that the old will become the new out there?
Yeah, so it's the same. I can't say wine in the old bottle, is new wine in the old bottle, but I think it's just presenting your content in more appropriate or more interactive fashion. I think that's where today's why don't we use things like wine, 6-second JDs, or today's generation really have a very small attention span. Anyways, they don't have time to read all those JDs. So can we act, for just let's say 2 minutes videos for hiring manager, that can help them. So That's what I think.
Matt, I see you wanted to share something. What is
Um,
that look on your face? What is that
no,
look
I
on your
mean
face?
not necessarily. It's just like things like video job description. This is all awesome, but if do you really want to hire a candidate who's not going to take the minute it takes to read the text in the first place? Like you can be cool and snazzy, but at the end of the day, the person who finds a job and wants it is going to apply regardless of the medium.
Absolutely. Well, Kunjal, would you like to share your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of talk about mobile recruiting. I mean, just some stats again. India close to 946 million in mobile connections, out of which 200 have internet on their mobile. Companies are wanting to use it, but to be honest with you, I mean, companies are not ready to experiment because it will involve a cost also. Because at the end of the day, everything comes to ROI. So how much do I invest and what do I get? So they are worried about the very next moment what will happen. So if with that mindset, if we go, I mean, sorry to say, but I mean that we'll not be able to reach the huge potential that mobile recruiting has. So that's my take on it.
All right. Thank you for that. Thank you for muting that. All right, so let's move on to the next question, guys. That is on our list. Will LinkedIn continue to be dominant player, or will we see diversion? I guess most of them we have already talked it, but still, if you would like to, I see Matt is wanting to share something over there because he's the right person to share something to talk about LinkedIn, right? Right, Matt?
I absolutely. So, high level, if you're paying for LinkedIn, you're wasting your money and they're an evil corporation. But a more granular level, it's impossible, at least in the United States, for LinkedIn to gain market share. Right now, it's 92% of recruiters are using it. So if you're seeing the same results as everyone else, you're not really getting a competitive advantage. You're just being lazy. So I think to kind of the overall tenor of this conversation, it's hit such a point of ubiquity that in order to really be creative and stand out and get your message heard in a place where there's not a lot of noise, just by virtue of market share, if no other facts, LinkedIn has to go down in prevalence just in terms of its use in recruiting.
Yeah, go ahead, Maren.
I think that when people say LinkedIn is dominant, they mean it's dominant in the white collar and sometimes gray collar jobs in which we're used to recruiting. But those aren't the jobs where we're seeing big surges in market share, either in America or throughout the world. So we might see some additional LinkedIn adoption globally. But to Matt's point, yes, it is saturating the market. But again, that's very much the white collar market. There's not as many young people on that platform as we would hope, and there's not any blue collar manufacturing, industrial, none of that stuff. Maybe at the supervisory level, but it's not even close to a percentage that would show saturation in that market.
Absolutely. Well, I still remember the conversation that I had with Josh Rock, and wherein during that period of time of his, he was into recruitment of construction employees. So there wasn't any construction employees on LinkedIn, right? So what he did is using Facebook as a platform to connect with their spouse, which is kind of interesting, to connect with these construction employees, and wherein he had a great response out there using Facebook to recruit construction workers. So it's basically depends upon what candidates, what type of candidates you're looking for, and where they are, and be there. So we have Harmeet joined with us. Harmeet, are you there?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Hi. So welcome to India HR Live. Glad you made it.
Thank, yeah, thanks Nisha for calling me here, and I'm looking forward for an exciting discussion on recruitment trends.
All right. Well, at this point, we are talking more about, will LinkedIn continue to be a dominant player in this year? So what are your takes on that?
Not much on being a dominant player or not, but yes, if I talk about more and more trends, it's more employee or more attracting dominant industry now, which is going on where you have to be like work more on talent brands where candidates should be attracted towards you, looking for always a newer platforms like you were talking about Facebook to hire a construction worker. Similarly, There are meetup groups. There are other different platforms on which now recruiters have to go and find out the exact match because that's a need of the hour right now.
All right. While you were talking about, the talent brands, I've read a study, I think, by LinkedIn, and they said those who have strong talent brand are able to reduce their cost per hire by 50 percentage. So this is going to be huge. Um, so let's talk a little bit more about the talent brand and when it comes to providing the candidate experience. So can candidate experience progress beyond the buzzword? That's what our next topic. Sarang, you have been quiet for a while, so bring it on.
Uh, so yeah, I mean, candidate experience is definitely being has been a buzzword. I think candidate experience also goes beyond just social. It's also the way recruiters engage as candidates. It's also about are you being there where they are interacting with you, transacting with you. How's their experience on your career site? Just beyond going mobile and all that stuff. Is it giving right information about your company? Is it letting them to see right information at right time? Can they apply using Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter without going through, as Matt said, a long form? Are you also measuring candidate experience? I think while there's been a lot of talk about candidate experience, one needs to understand what is candidate experience. Are they happy with the way you have been managing their candidature? Are you providing them, right funnel or right information about where they are in the process? Are you engaging them even after offer process? So one of the things, probably can you create something like, apps where, you engage candidates from offer to um, joining process. Now whether you do through app or social or anywhere else, in India that's a big problem, isn't it? So you have candidates with 3 months of notice period, and they kind of go out and shopping and get more offers into their hand, and then you lose out that touch in those 3 months, and then recruiters one find you on Monday morning gets a surprise that candidates are not joining. Can you actually tap their pulse throughout those 3 months, and continue providing them good experience in those 3 months? Can you actually consider them as the extended part of your family and start doing some trainings? I clearly I have one incident in mind where Infosys actually delayed some of their
Mhm.
offer letters some
Yeah.
time back. They actually invited all those people into their microsite and created set of trainings for them, which were they supposed to start when they actually onboarded. So you can actually start your onboarding process before candidate join and let them feel to be part of the family. Can you do some high tea sessions, webinars, within that process? Because that's the time where candidate decide whether I'm going to join this company or not, and you better keep them close to your chest.
That is true. When we talk about candidate experience, normally people think about pre-hire, right? But what happens after post-hire when that candidate becomes an employee within the organization? Are you providing a better employment experience? And even you said that the 3 months period wherein the termination process is happening, and while the employee is going outside the organizations, are you providing them a great support when it comes to helping him a smooth transition to go outside the organization? Matt, what is your take, Matt, Marin, and first of all, when it comes to providing a candidate experience to go
Um,
beyond the buzzword?
yeah,
What's your message to go beyond the buzzword?
so just for me, I think candidate experience is like nobody ever sets off to say, I want to treat my candidates terribly, right? Like it's never an
Not at
intentional,
all.
and it's really, really easily solved in a lot of cases. Career Builder has some data out that says that the number one thing candidates wants just to hear back if they're not in consideration. So if you're sending out a template that says we got your job application, we'll contact if you're still interested. We have the exact same technology to just crossify that to say thanks but no thanks. You're no longer under consideration. That problem's pretty much solved. I think going beyond the buzzword, though, is people need to realize that candidate user experience are more or less the same thing. 85% of every job seeker's search right now starts at Google. So more or less the consumer results for a brand and the employer-related results for a brand show up in the same place. So that's why it's really, really important to remember that the expectations that we have when we're making a purchasing decision around a product and the expectations that we have when we're making a purchasing decision about a job really aren't all that different. And companies need to really start focusing on how to make the user experience better, and the candidate experience should solve itself.
So going back to one of the points that Sarang has mentioned, measuring the candidate experience. So Maren, at your organization, do you provide something like measuring the candidate experience to help your clients?
We do. And I just tweeted something like, it's really, really hard to measure the candidate experience with any sort of authenticity, because what's difficult is when they're in the process, they're not going to answer honestly. When they're out of the process, they don't care anymore, either because they didn't get the job or because they did get the job and they're busy doing their work. The only people that do care to sort of give you that sort of measurement are the ones who had a really bad experience. So that's one kind of crummy thing. So we have to provide, as sort of cheesy and marketing related as it sounds, we have to provide incentives. We have to do, as sort of Matt said, provide that user experience, that user interface. And it's really difficult. Again, I'm going to come at this from the vendor perspective to say, okay, half of us, we have to build for the buyer, right? So the HR user, the practitioner needs to be able to use our software on the back end. But on the front end, we need to provide candidates with everything that they need while they're job seeking, and those needs are myriad, right? So we've already talked about all the different industries, all the different levels, what entry-level job seekers want versus what a more seasoned, experienced professional would want. So it is difficult. We do offer it. Obviously, we do the same things that most people do. We do surveys. We go through the process ourselves. We just finished a really, really lengthy brand audit for a company, and it included everything that would touch the candidate. And I do agree with Matt in that they're coming in the same channel, but I think even more important is they're coming at it from the same format. So if you do see it in Google, or whatever search engine you use, for most of us it's Google, things like SEO do have to play a part in that. Readability has to play a part in that. Searchability has to play a part in that. And if you're not taking those things into consideration, and again, either pulling them from mobile or pulling them from a highly social, really sexified, marketing campaign into this humdrum, super boring, difficult to navigate career site that doesn't really show off your culture, it's very difficult to get people. And you would be really surprised at some of the companies and what they're doing to attract candidates. I don't think anyone sets out to tick candidates off, but at the same time, I think a lot of people don't give it the thought that they need to give it. And so it ends up being this just byproduct of hodgepodge marketing materials, and it's gross.
Mm-hmm. Well, adding to that, you know what, I remember talking to Kunjal, and he brought up an interesting point, saying that if recruiters and HR professionals aren't happy, don't expect them to provide a good candidate experience. So let's hear from Kunjal. What is his thoughts when it comes to having recruiters as brand ambassadors? Yeah, go ahead, Kunjal.
Yeah, I mean, ideally, that again, talent branding is more of a buzzword, but actually, if you see internally, your own employees are your brand ambassadors, which need to talk outside, right? I mean, I can spend a lot of money in marketing, posters, images, digital media, and all, but at the end of the day, I don't control it. Whatever my employees talk outside, I need to take care of it, and I need to encourage them or motivate them, rather than them just forcing them to talk about the brand or the organization. So ideally, we talk about candidate experience. It starts with your own internal employees, your own recruiters, or your own HR professionals. You need to first understand that pulse. You need to understand what their problems is at ground level, and then you can go upstairs and prepare strategies. It does not make point wherein I sit upstairs and I plan this and I plan that, but at the end of the day, if it does not work out, the real people who are facing it are your recruiters and the HR professionals. So ideally, they are your brand ambassadors who need to work. You need to work with them closely, and then understand what the ground situation is.
Right. Well, let's move on to a couple of questions on our Twitter stream. And the first one, we got it from Amita Bhatia, and she is saying, Amita Baheti. Why do we need competency development in sourcing? Why not outsource? So this going back to the skill set that we would expect from our recruiters and sources out there. Who would like to respond to this question? Yeah, go ahead, Cedric. Got it.
Yeah. My question would be then, do you really want to give control of, the kind of candidates, the engagement and the core, talent branding to a person? And Kunjal said about brand ambassadors to people who are not inside your companies. It's ideally your own people who would be the best people who would be able to represent your company in right way because they have experienced your company. They will be honest about the process and feedback. Also, if you look at today, social recruiting and sourcing are one of the most important competencies any recruiter have. um, can you really imagine a recruiter who don't know anything about sourcing or who don't go to social media? I mean, they will become absolute. So, leave the point about whether you want to outsource it or insource it. These are the key competencies of recruiters. And in fact, today, we learn about social being thing of a future. It's happening now. So as a recruiter, if you're not leveraging it right now, you probably become outdated in the market itself.
Yeah, I see that is happening because most of the trends, it takes a little time for people to start using it because they have to get outside of their fear of change and trying something new. And in fact, there is a quote from Amit Awasthi. He is saying, "Not sure about what to use though. Is it just for conversation? India still depends on Naukri and Monster." So that kind of fear.
Yeah, agreed. So, job ports still rule, at least in India. I definitely, the Naukri and Monster still rule. You'll not find a recruiter who's not using Naukri and Monster, because that's the way recruiters being grown up. That's the way, the first time they started recruiting is on Naukri.com. But the point is, are your candidates also continue to be on Naukri? In fact, if you've seen, there are more portals like Naukri and Monster who are going the social way. Monster has acquired Talent Bean. Naukri has started their own network. Naukri has also started their employee referral channel, which they attach to the social media. So it's actually the reverse way happening where these job portals have understood if they want to be part of the game, they have to integrate with social. They cannot just sit and be part of the database and let things happen the way they have happening.
Absolutely. And the next question is from Amita Baheti. She is asking for communicating the organization as employer of choice. What sort of three concrete skills needed by recruiters? Again, asking for skills from a recruiter or from an HR point of view. Matt, would you like to answer that question?
Yeah, so I think that the concrete skills that are really needed are the ability to understand the business, because you have to be able to communicate specifically by function, industry, and segment, or else you lose a whole lot of credibility. And what that employer of choice is going to be different depending on who the candidates are you're talking to. So that, I think that's one. The ability to be able to effectively communicate with hiring managers and employees who are already doing that role, to be able to tell their stories as subject matter experts, and be able to, assist you in not only providing referrals but also insight into what the job looks like is, I think, really important. And then the other thing too is to listen to what people, I guess, are already saying about your brand. And when in the U.S., certainly when you have sites like Glassdoor, rather than saying, "Oh, this is a few outliers or disgruntled employees or people who didn't get the job," really just take in the fact that maybe these are things what are true and I should fix. So I think that being able to have an open mind, and be able to flex what you're hearing the market saying about you is really important as well.
Absolutely. Well, one of the quote on our Twitter stream is um, Is it possible to talk in a simple language? What is the problem? What is the issue that we are facing in recruitment right now? Is it possible to define actual problem involved in recruiting in 2015 in simple terms? And that is from Vijay Pankar. So, Maren, would you like to?
I think that one of the biggest things that I see recruiters facing is sort of what I alluded to earlier. This like, here's a new tool, try this. This will solve your problem. Do this. I think it's a lot of stuff coming at them. Now, some of the best ones, especially those who have lived in a third-party environment, are sort of used to that, so they can overcome it. But in a corporate environment, many of these recruiters have grown up, thinking that searching on LinkedIn is sourcing, and it's really truly not. So what's troubling them is this fire hose of information, not understanding how to sort it all, and then being asked to do multiple other roles, right? Like recruiters should be marketing, recruiters should be sourcing, recruiters should be, focused on retention. And those are all perfectly valid things for recruiters to have to focus on. But I think the number one issue for recruiters right now is just being overwhelmed with information, being overwhelmed with new demands on their time and attention, and being able to sort through that noise and clutter without getting distracted from the overall strategy, which as Matt rightly pointed out, is understanding the business. What does your business need? How can you focus on the roadmap to help your company get to where it needs to go? Because you're not focused with one team or one department or one goal. You have multiple goals.
Absolutely. Well, Harmeet, there is one more question on our Twitter stream, and that talks about the future of recruiting agencies. So, what is the future of recruiting agencies with the new social recruiting methods? And the question is from Pooja Arora.
Okay, definitely I see a very bright future, but with little transformation which is required from the recruitment agencies. They also had to adapt non-conventional methodology of going, or it all can be done. They have to adopt some new technologies. They have to adopt certain uh, new platforms. They have to identify platforms where they can be engaged with their prospective hires. They have to be more closer or partnering with the clients or the employers, understanding their business, communicating their business requirements correct, and then mapping the similar type of candidates for them. So just definitely, if they have that agility to adopt new uh, unconventional methodologies and moving ahead with exact, is fulfilling the today's need, where all the recruiters are struggling with smaller timelines, just-in-time recruitments, always the pressure of hiring immediately. Nowadays, there is a new buzzword of yesterday's requirement.
Mm-hmm.
No, there is no, there is no strategic cover like we need to hire someone in 30 days or 45 days. It's usually now we require this candidate here as per yesterday. It is the yesterday's requirement. So just in time fulfillment. So all these agencies, if they acquire all new methodologies of social networking, gauging and keeping a good pipeline of candidates required by their clients, providing solutions to the clients. So I think we have a good future for recruitment agencies in this social networking era.
Right. Well, we all have been talking about social, mobile, and even cloud and whatnot on social recruiting platform, and even we kind of evaluated what's old, what's new. But it's not long ago we have seen the emergence of Google Glasses, right? So, what do you see the role of wearables for recruiting? Matt, would you like to?
Yeah, so I'll geek out for a second. Obviously, Google Glass and augmented reality does not have a huge future, but I think that having tried Oculus Rift, I think that virtual reality, which is obviously different, is really going to be a game changer, particularly when it comes to the screening process, because that's owned by Facebook. It's going to eventually be pushed out with an open API and a pretty low consumer price point. So what I think that's going to start allowing us to do is two different things. One, to actually see what it's like to work at a company as opposed to what an employer wants us to see it's like working at a company. And secondarily, it's going to do a much better job of allowing us to screen candidates based off hands-on like skill sets, decision making, and exposure to jobs than any technology that's previously been out there. So I think that Oculus is probably the biggest game changer that will emerge in the next 5 years in recruiting.
Right. Well, well, thank you so much to everyone because we already reached our 60 minutes time of the show and it's been a wonderful show. But before we wind up, I wanted to have this last question to each and everyone. And if you would like to answer this, that would be a great help for all of our recruiters and HR professionals that are watching this show right now. So what do you think? Do you see a shortage of top recruiters out there, as recruiting volumes and difficulty both ramping up and keeping up with the technologies? Having a top-notch recruiter in the organization would be a great challenge in order to be successful or not. So what do you suggest in order to fix that? Do you see a shortage of top recruiters? And if it's to fix that, what do you recommend? Setting.
Let me start with it.
Yeah, go ahead, Harvey.
No, there is no scarcity of top recruiters or talent crunch and anyone. We have lots of scope in recruiters, and recruiters have now acquired new technologies. Now it's just a matter to become to partner with the client, to partner with the LBO units, understanding the business, and looking for exact match, which is actually required to become a top recruiter. If you will help the business, if you can take care of ROIs, take care of cross industry hirings, you can be a domain expert or a subject matter expert wheresoever you are working. It can be corporate recruitment, it can be consulting, or it can be a recruitment agency. Understanding the business demands and fulfilling the business demands, then definitely you can find lots of top recruiters, and recruiters getting that uh, what I should say, that aspired position in the organization. And definitely there are lots of top recruiters available, and recruitment industry will grow in next 4 5 years.
So what do you guys say? Do you see a shortage of top recruiters out there? Kunjal?
There's no shortage, but the problem is, I mean, they are so much engrossed in so many of tools, technology around it. So the basics have been left out. So the ideally recruitment is nothing but a candidate, your organization, and what kind of experience that you give. So the idea is to keep it simple, keep it basic, and then do it. So there's no shortage about it, but it's just that they need to be passionate about searching, sourcing, researching, need to represent the organization. So as long as these basic things are covered, I don't think so there'll be a shortage.
I don't think there's any shortage of people who are able to be top recruiters out there. I do think that there is a shortage of training and onboarding around recruiting that's always existed. And I do think that there's some inability for recruiters to be empowered within their organizations. I'm talking really more specifically around corporate recruiting and specifically in the US. But I will say that I think these people have the ability to do this. I think we have the technology to do this, but they're not empowered and they're not trained properly. And like I mentioned earlier, some going and looking on LinkedIn, or performing a simple Boolean search on Google, and it's much more complex than that. There's a lack of respect for the industry. I'm not into the whole certification thing. I don't think that's necessary, but I do think it's necessary to have a better training process where the stakeholders of the company are involved.
Thank you. Matt, what do you say? You're on mute, Matt.
Thank you very much. No, I think that there are no shortage of top recruiters out there, but I think that at the same time, to continue to bring fresh blood in is really going to be a challenge. So I think that everything we're talking about, if you were to tell a college grad, like mobile, social, they're like, yeah, duh, right? So I think that really our challenge is going to be drawing the best and the brightest into the profession and actually establishing it as a viable career as opposed to just something that people fall into.
Thank you. And last but not least, Sarang.
Um, So, I think what I honestly think is, like any niche skill, a good and top recruiter is also niche. While I think there are some really good recruiters out there, but recruiters who are adapt to the changes, who adapt to transformation, and who adopt to the new wave of technology are relatively fewer than others. So recruiters would, as Kunjal said, they really need to go out of their comfort zone and learn these new technologies. Also, the sourcing trainings, recruiting trainings are important. And as Matt rightly said, at least in India, recruitment is not really the preferred choice for things like MBA grads or IITs and IIMs. So how do we position recruitment beyond just an admin function is also important. But recruiters who are able to adopt these changes will be the front runners in the entire talent acquisition industry and will have a really good value in the market.
Right. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining with us today and having this wonderful conversation out there. We really, really appreciate that, and thank you so much to all of our audience who have joined us on Twitter stream and even on Facebook to support and hope you all had a wonderful session learning more about recruitment trends and. We look forward to seeing you in another show. So again, Sarang, Matt, Marin, Kunchal, and Hermit, thank you so much for joining with us today.
Thank you.
And our pleasure. Thank you.
All right. Well, look forward to having you all again sometime soon.
Sure. Thanks.
Bye bye.